Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. There's been a lot going on in the Big Four world, but wanted to update quickly on the E&Y split since that's such a huge story. Apparently, over the weekend, there's some information leaked to the Wall Street Journal that E&Y is going to phase two of, well, they're pretty close. The Wall Street Journal article said that they're pretty close to determining the next step or moving to the next step. And then today there's communication that E&Y is going to proceed to the next step, which is getting their partners to vote on the split. And that will happen in late 2022, early 2023, because as you know, that E&Y and the other Big Four partner member firms. I mean, there's partners all over the world, and the member firms are separate than from each other. There's no like necessarily consolidated structure. The partners run their own member offices, and they are all allowed to use the same brand. So it's going to take a while. They have to put together the information, and it's pretty hilarious that they're proceeding forward and they haven't put all that together, because the logistics around this are going to be a nightmare. And I can already tell you now that there'll be many things that aren't even, because I've worked in the Big Four accounting firms for a long time now, and there's going to be many things they don't even think of until after they already split. And that is going to be funny to see what they leave until then. But this Wall Street Journal too was saying that the partners are going to receive 2 to 4 times the annual compensation, or more than $1 million each for the typical U.S. and U.K. partners. And also the CEO of E&Y is going to probably receive tens of millions, which I think is probably right. And that's what we discussed on this podcast too, is that the partners now at the firm, of course, are going to want to approve this, because they're going to get a once in a lifetime payment. Why would they care about the brand of an accounting firm? And you have to remember, all these brands of the accounting firms are fairly new, because they had to merge over the years to create these plans. They had all the issues that came out of the Arthur Andersen Enron scandal. And so I don't think anybody's necessarily married to the brand of their accounting firm. And so why not cash out? And for a lot of these people, especially the consulting arm that's going to split into something new, you don't even know what brand you're going to come out with at the end of this. So why not get a once in a lifetime payment? Who knows what the retention structure is going to be, but if there's not a good one, then you can just leave right after this too and take your money and run. I'm sure there'll be some retention structure in order for you to keep this bonus compensation. There has to be, otherwise they could just devastate both firms, the AssureCo and the NewCo. But there's not really a bunch of new information in this new communication. It's just affirming the old information, and then not only affirming that old information, but also saying that they're going into step 2. So they've moved a step forward, and the next thing is the vote, and that's going to be piecemeal over the next 6 months. So let's see how that goes, and let's see how much of this bleeds into fiscal year 2024. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how that goes. And then I recently received an email too about partner compensation. We have a page about it. Some of the information in there is old, but we've also posted the public information of partner compensation over the years. And a person told me that the average partner compensation is over $1 million for the Big Four. And I think, to some extent that might be true, but that's also my experience. Like, if you're in a smaller office, to say that every partner is making over $1 million is ridiculous. And you'll see the numbers in these articles, like the Wall Street Journal or other articles online, and you'll think that you're going to make $1 million no matter what. But that's just not true. because you have to justify that with a book of business. And a lot of partners have a bunch of small clients that don't necessarily equal them out to that. And, they own shares in the firm, and those are worth a certain value, but you're just not necessarily going to be making $1 million a year, um, for multiple reasons, because the firm the firms aren't generating that much revenue per partner to justify that amount of money. In consulting, in a good year, I'm sure it's easy to get there, but in other areas of the firms, I don't think that that's necessarily true, and I think um, it really depends on your geographic location, the clients in that location. Because think of the Big Four tries to retain the largest clients in the world, but in some regions, in the U.S., especially around the globe, where the economies aren't even the scale of the U.S., they're just not going to be making that amount of money. So there's no one clear number for a partner. The compensation differs, and for people to just be ridiculously over the top with some of this is I don't think realistic. And um, so I just wanted to mention that, because as you see some of these partner numbers and how much money they're going to be making, it's important to keep in perspective that it's not all the partners are going to make the same amount of money. That would just be ridiculous. Out of this deal, they're not all going to make 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. It's going to be um, different across the board. But we are now in phase 2 of the EY split up, or at least I consider this really phase 1, because they still haven't done the planning. And but it's management's, the top executives have decided to move forward. That was the first step, and then now they're presenting it to the vote of the member firms, and that's going to take some time. And it's just going to be interesting to see how this affects EY's business. I think we might see a decline in their revenues as a result of this. Maybe not consulting. Well, I think consulting will go down no matter what because of the way the economy is trending. But I think big consulting projects won't be affected. I think audit might be affected by this. And then I think tax could also be impacted, because people are going to have questions of what's going to happen to their, your work with the firm. Why? Can you trust that they're going to focus on this, or are they going to be too worried about splitting up the firm? What's going to happen to your project or documentation when the split up occurs? That there's going to be a lot of questions that clients have, and it's going to come up through the RFP process. So I think this has a chance to affect their business, but I also don't think that that's going to stop the partners from voting yes on this. It's just a once in a lifetime payment that they're going to want to proceed forward with. So there's more to come on this. It's going to change the Big Four landscape. The other Big Fours are going to start looking into this. PwC already tried to do this too with their trust solutions and non-trust solutions. They rebranded that so that they can pitch to their client that they're independent. So they basically did this without actually splitting up the firm. But now let's see whether PwC actually goes forward with splitting up the firm. I think they'll be the first to go down this path as well, because they did that trust solutions and really haven't heard much about it since then. And I don't think many people care about the differentiation there. So I think their partners are going to hear about the payouts from the E&Y partners, and then they say, hey, I want one of those too. So I think that's what's going to happen next. We'll keep an eye on it for you. So make sure to subscribe to this podcast and check out the show notes for useful links. And thanks for listening.